Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see, I made a couple of upgrades to the office, so I wanted to take this chance to showcase probably the thing that I get asked about the most, which is my most expensive PSA 10 cards from YuGiOh. So without further ado, in true Kaiba fashion, what we're gonna go over is the top 25 most expensive YuGiOh cards in my collection. Alright, so to make this easier on myself, I put these cards into 5 tiers, depending on price obviously, 0 to 5, 5 to 10,000, 10,000 to 15, 15 to 20, and above 20. I just think this is a little bit easier because I honestly don't want to get burned at the cross for misquoting a price or something like that. So I figured a range keeps me safe and, gives you guys a little bit of an idea of the price of these cards. It is very expensive, and to disclaimer myself, I do want to indicate that none of these cards are stored here. I store them away in a vault. I brought them out for this video so that I could show it to you guys, but after this they're going to be gone. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and without further ado, let's start with the first card in my collection, which is the Labyrinth of Nightmare Dark Magician. So I purchased this card simply because I truly love the artwork of the starter deck Yugi Dark Magician. However, this one's an ultimate rare. And being an ultimate rare, it honestly has like such a great texture to it. I honestly thought like this is a must-have in my collection. I really like the big picture. I really like the small text box. It's very anime reminiscent. So because of this, I decided to pick this up. This is not as hard to acquire simply because it's just an easy card to grade. Honestly, you can probably find it under 3,000. Next, we're gonna go with my Diffusion Wave Motion. Now, a lot of you guys will be like why is this one very expensive? The reason this one's expensive is because it's a low pop card. It's in a box that's basically extinct. And the reason I have this in my collection is because I collect Magician's Force, and this is a must-have if you're trying to collect this set. So because of that, I added it to my collection, and it just so happened to be in the high echelon in terms of price. So it's not really that special. It was used in the anime, but it's still a Diffusion Wave Motion at the end of the day. This is not really an expensive card. It's more expensive in PSA 10 because it's always off center. Next, we're gonna go with a GX favorite, which is Ancient Gear Golem. Now, Ancient Gear Golem is probably a staple in most people's GX collection. I really like this because it's the cover art of the Lost Millennium. I don't really like Crowler or fancy him in any way. I just think that, I want to collect the cover cards. So because of this, this is must have. And it happens to fall in that 0 to 5,000 range. I would say like this is around $2,500 to $3,000. It's very high pop because it's a little bit easier to grade compared to the rest of the Ultimates. However, most GX collectors want almost every Ultimate Rare that appeared in the show. So because of this, this is like a very high price tag item. Next, we're gonna go with a classic Dark Paladin from Magician's Force. This card is iconic. I really love this card. The reason I bought it is because, like I said, I collect MFC, but I also collect all the Magicians. I really like the way that the art is drawn on them. I like the suits. Everything about them is just totally badass. So because of this, I had to have the Buster Blader and Dark Magician fusion, and I really favor this artwork over the corrected one simply because I like portrait style type of cards. So this was a must-have for me, and I ended up picking it up. Next, we have Dragon Master Knight. This card is not the first printing of this card. This is the second printing. The reason I like this card is simply because of how, number one, iconic it is. I mean, everybody remembers the scene in the anime, but it's very damn difficult to get. Even the raw copies of this go for like hundreds of dollars. So because of this, it fetches a very high price tag in PSA 10 form. This is, I believe, pop 14 or 15. So it's quite difficult to acquire. Because of this, it was a must-have, and I ended up picking it up. Next, we have 3 cards, and they're not the same, but they fall in the same category. These are the Ultra Ultimates from Elemental Energy. So the first one is Rampart Blaster, the second is Tempest, and the third is Wild Edge. These cards are very special to me because I remember Jaden using them on the show many times. The reason I decided to pick them up is because they're very nostalgic to me, but at the same time, I really like the way that the Elemental Hero archetype works. I love the fusion aspect. Everything about these cards is simply fantastic. I love the artwork. Everything is just awesome. I mean, Elemental Energy is a set itself that contains the archetype in its name. You know what I mean? It's very reminiscent of Cybernetic Revolution, Gladiator's Assault, Magician's Force. I really gravitate towards those kind of sets, and because of that, these were must-haves in my collection. Next, we have a very iconic and fan favorite card, a Metal Raiders Classic Time Wizard. The reason I picked this card up is simply because of how many times it was used in Duelist Kingdom. I mean, truly, this card is a staple to any collector of the classic Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, without a doubt, I had to have it in my collection, and it was purchased quite a long time ago. I mean, for a ridiculous price nowadays. I got this for around like $250, but back then the prices was completely different. Today I would say that this is around the $3,000 mark, so it definitely did well for itself, but I totally understand why it fetches the price that it does. This card is truly like a portrait style, perfect artwork classic, so you know, it was a must-have. All right, now we're gonna move on to the next tier, which is the $5,000 to $10,000 mark. These cards might dip below 5,000, they might go above 10,000, but honestly, I just try to ballpark it and give a estimate on what I know from the market. So the first thing is the only piece of Exodia that I have, which is the right arm. I don't favor the right arm for any reason. This is just the only one that I had remaining. I actually had a complete set, but stupidly, I ended up selling 4 of the pieces simply because the guy's offer was so good. So I shouldn't have done it now in hindsight, because obviously the price has completely exploded. I don't think I'll be able to afford them anytime soon. So because of this, this card is the only one I have remaining. This is more of a leftover in my collection. I mean, if somebody has the other pieces and wants to sell them back to me for, you know, a decent price, I would definitely pick them up. But for now, I'm stuck with the right arm only. Next, we're gonna go with another OCG classic, and this is the Volume 1 Dark Magician. This card is the first release of Dark Magician ever by Konami in terms of playable cards. This card is from the Volume 1 Booster Series. I mean, it has the original artwork, it could be pulled from the pack, it has everything going for it. Honestly, this card is absolutely iconic, and it is difficult to grade. The reason that the population is so crazy high on this card is because PSA in the beginning did not differentiate between the reprint and the original. So most of the population is actually reprints, it's not the original. I would be surprised if the population is over 15 on this card. However, for now, I believe it's like 50 something. So that's kind of a downfall for this card. However, now they've been categorizing them. There is a reprint and a non-reprint. I would evaluate this card around 65 to 7,000. I mean, I paid that, so that's the only data that I have for this. So I definitely recommend any Dark Magician collector to try and grade or scoop this card up, because it is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Next, we're gonna go into some GX secret rares. Number 1, it is Necroface. Basically, I think this is Pop 4. I picked this up around like 4, 5, 6 months ago. I don't quite remember exactly, but I bought this card because number 1, I really love the artwork. The artwork on this totally fits with the Yu-Gi-Oh like gothic theme. I know it wasn't featured in the anime, it was featured in the manga. I remember seeing this monster when I was reading the manga. To me, it really has a lot going for it. I really love the fact that it's so rare. I think this is 1 in 15 secret rares that you can pull from Gladiator's Assault. It can't be pulled from the blisters, and I believe it is short printed in the booster boxes. You cannot find a video of somebody pulling this card. It is population for the raw copies at least $500. So this thing is an absolute grail and a piece in my collection I'm very proud to have. So because of this, I mean, that's why I have it in my collection. I mean, what else could I say? Next is the counterpart for this, and the second Gladiators Assault card that a lot of people really love. This card is a fan favorite because it was used in the anime many times by Bei herself, Dark Magician Girl. This card is Magic Formula. I have two of these because I honestly paid like crazy for one of them, and the second one popped up for such a reasonable price that I was like, you know what, let me buy the dip. So so I ended up picking this card up as well. This is pop 8, I believe, so I don't really see the population on this card going up like way higher than, you know, 10 or 15, simply because it's just so damn hard to get. To me, I really like rarity, and especially if I can remember it from the show, I mean, that is like everything. So because of that, I ended up picking up not one, but two of them in my collection. I think GX had some of the most obnoxious pull rates. I mean, you cannot find these cards. They're very hard to get. So having them in PSA 10 is really a dream come true for me, and I'm really happy to own them. Next, we have some GX Ultimate Rares, and this is basically the blue eyes of the GX era. I'm sure you guessed it, Cyber Dragon. Now, I graded all three of these cards myself, pulled them myself actually. This card was revolutionary for its time in terms of playability. In the anime, it was really iconic as well. It has everything going for it, and this is why I had to own three of them. Again, it's just that simplistic portrait style artwork that really pulls me on these cards. This is why I really like Yu-Gi-Oh art style. Honestly, I really think Yu-Gi-Oh has some of the best artwork in any TCG. So because of this, I pulled and graded three of them myself over the years. So these are definitely a staple in my collection. And last but not least, in the $5,000 to $10,000 category is the second Bei herself, Injection Fairy Lily. I graded this card myself as well, actually, now that I think about it. This is one of the lowest pop secret rares, one of the lowest PSA 10 to graded ratios. The artwork is awesome. It was in the show, it was in the movie. I picked this up long before the price exploded, but I believe right now it is minimum $5,000. The last sale was around $7,400, so that's what I used to put it in this tier. I really love it, and it's definitely a big piece of my collection. All right, now we're gonna move on to the next tier in terms of price, and this is gonna be the 10 minimum. The first thing that we have here is the second bad boy from Retro Pack 2, and probably the most iconic card from this set. It is Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon is, I'm pretty sure it's like $1,000 minimum in terms of raw. Just look at this artwork, look at the secret rare foiling. Just like Dragon Master Knight, this is not the first printing of this card, but it's definitely the most sought after. Every Blue Eyes collector wants this, and I mean, it's iconic because everybody watched that movie. I mean, everybody that played Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember lining up at the movie theater to watch this film. So this card, it definitely like brings up a lot of nostalgia for me, and I'm very happy to own it. Now, the second and last card in this category is Jinzo. This card I have two of because it came my way through a trade, and the second one at least did. The first one, I graded many of them, and they always rotated in my collection. I ended up sticking with one of them at the end, and the second one just came my way through a trade. So because of this, I have two of them. I don't really need to say too much about this card. All of you guys know what it is. The last sale, I believe, was $10,000, so this is what I went off of. I've had offers for a little bit more than that, but I figured 10,000 should be good. This is one of those masterpieces of a card. This has everything going for it. The anime, the manga, the playability, everything is going for this card, and the artwork to top it off is absolutely gorgeous. Just a no-brainer and a staple in my collection for sure. Next, we have the two big boys from the GX era, the two cover cards of probably the most iconic sets from that era, Elemental Energy and Cybernetic Revolution. We have Cyber End Dragon and Shining Flare Wingman. These two cards, I mean, you don't really need to say too much about them. Shining Flare recently sold for 15,000, so that's why I put it in this category. I would be very surprised if this sells for under that. So because of this, I pair them together, and you know, again, they have that archetype in the name of the set. Cybernetic Revolution, Elemental Energy, and you have the two big badasses right on the cover card. Honestly, no-brainers in my collection as a GX fanboy. So because of this, they were must-haves. Really, I don't know what else to say about them other than very, very, very pleased to have these staples. Next, we have Blue Eyes from Dark Duel Stories. This is, you know, everybody knows this card, everybody wants this card, and I mean, it has the original artwork, and then it has the gorgeous foiling. This is one of the few cards before grading came to be that was expensive from the get-go. I remember back in like 2010, 2011, this card was 300 bucks. You know, you could buy every card in Yu-Gi-Oh for $300, and this card was 300 bucks. It's definitely declined because it's so easy to grade now that grading is the standard. However, I totally understand why people love this card. I totally get it. To me, SDK is king. However, DDS is definitely a close second. I really, really love these cards, man. Honestly, DDS is one of those like gems in every collection. Another card you guys might not recognize, this is the starter box Blue Eyes from the starter box. So this card is not very difficult to find in raw form because it was mass released. However, in PSA 10, it is absolutely impossible. This has one of the lowest ratios in terms of gradability. Very, very difficult to grade, very difficult to obtain like in mint, because a lot of these were played. Everybody that wants to max rarity their deck, this is the rarest Blue Eyes out there that is not like, you know, a prize card. So very, very difficult to get in gem mint condition. Most recent sale on this card was 15,000. It was sold to someone in the United States, so I believe it's pop 10. You know, being an avid Blue Eyes collector, I had to own the first copy ever. So this was definitely, you know, a prize. Honestly, I was truly joyed when I got this card. I got it for so cheap because back then nobody even knew what this card is. So I'm very happy to own this, and it's gonna stay for a very long time in my collection. Last but not least, we're going with one of my favorite cards in the game. Something that is extremely hard to find, hard to get in raw form, hard to get in PSA 10 form. Even PSA 9 is very expensive. This card is very, very special. It is iconic. It appeared in the show. It appeared in the manga. It's not very playable, but it has so much presence on the show that, you know, everybody gravitates towards it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's the Magician's Force Dark Magician Girl. This card is the epitome of everything collectible. This set is extremely hard to find. The card is hard to pull. It's hard to grade in PSA 10. It has everything going for it, and because of this, I don't really see myself parting with this copy for a very, very long time. You know, this is arguably the biggest staple of my collection other than the cards that are coming up next. Next, we move on to the big boy tier, or the over 20,000. I only have two cards in here, well actually two species, but four copies. This is the big boy, this is the face of the hobby. This is the card that kind of surpasses Yu-Gi-Oh! Every investor per se wants to own one copy of this card because they want to own one Charizard, one Lotus, and one Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is the one that most collectors go after when they are trying to get the creme de la creme. So because of this, you know, I had to get three of them, and this is the LOB first edition Blue Eyes White Dragon. I have two glossies and one wavy. I got these way back in the day. I'll just tell you guys what I paid. I mean, I paid $800 for one of them and $1,900 for the second one. That's all I paid. The third one I paid a lot for, but you know, at that point I had accumulated wealth from the hobby that it didn't really hurt my wallet as much. But I mean, $900 for a copy, $800 for a copy. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but I remember it was under 1,000. So very, very happy to have these in my collection. What else can I say? Honestly, the Blue Eyes White Dragon, 120 packs to pull this guy. Hopefully you get a PSA 10. Very, very difficult. That's the holy grail of my collection. The last sale was around 50,000, so I would approximate around there. The wavy maybe like, you know, 5% more, but honestly, this card is priceless to me, so it doesn't really matter about where the price goes. But just for the video's purposes, it is over $20,000 in terms of price. And now we have the last card in my collection, a card that you saw on Solemn YuGiOh's channel, a card that you saw on my channel in my mail day. This is the G3 Dark Magician Girl. I've said what I need to say about this card. Absolute holy grail. Super, super happy to have this. And this is one of those cards where if I let it go, I know I will never get it back. Because literally, stars had to align for me to acquire a PSA 10. Like, that's how... I just still can't believe this. So, yeah, honestly, I'm so happy to have this. Now, that's basically it for my PSA graded collection. In terms of goals, I mean, I really don't have that much more to check off my list. I am looking for basically, you know, Flame Wingman, Wing Karibo, Summon Skull PSA 10, Raviel in PSA 10, and Starter Deck Kaiba and Starter Deck Yugi in PSA 10, those two cards. I had a lot of Starter Deck Kaiba. I actually had a big position on them, but you know, this really rich guy cleaned me out, and I was in a position where I wanted to purchase something really big in my collection, so I let them go. And regrettably, I haven't been able to find another one since. So I don't have any. So I am looking for that. If anybody has that, I am willing to trade. So yeah, that's basically my want list. In terms of sales, I don't really sell that much of these. I mostly trade them. And I would only really trade my doubles, like my Jinzo, Magic Formula, stuff like that. But otherwise, I wouldn't really move them because these are truly like my babies. Like most of these I pulled and graded myself. So, you know, it's hard letting them go. I watched them grow up. So yeah, I mean, maybe one day I will have to part with my collection, but you know, I don't really need the money. I don't really have anything else that, you know, I am looking to buy. So for now, I'm happy with where I'm at. I would say that, you know, I'm very lucky, but I don't want to, you know, give this off to luck. I really do think it's a blessing. So yeah, I mean, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. You know, everybody has different tastes. These are just what I like. A lot of people ask me like why I don't collect ghosts. I just maxed out at GX. That was kind of my limit. I didn't really watch 5Ds or anything like that. So I don't really have a connection to them. This is where my collection lies. Honestly, yeah, I don't really have too much more to say. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm super excited to share with you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.